It's being recorded.
Wow, that sounds cute. All right, so here we are, Stronger by the Day podcast. I'm Alex, that's Jordan, and we did our last podcast in like February or March or something like that. So it's been a little while since we did
Like
that.
a year.
We've obviously been doing our own things on either side. So let's hear. I mean, I've been following you on Instagram, obviously watching your progress and seeing kind of everything that you've had going on. So why don't you talk about what it was that you were, because it's been so long. So what was it that you were going after, and like where are you at now in your progress?
Um, so I was going after being like, I don't know, as muscular as I can be, which is still my goal. I guess now is like I'm trying to be more healthy, not on the fluffy side, because I was really trying to maximize my strength potential. Um, and then I was like kind of just reading up on research and everything, and that what caught my eye is that strength doesn't correlate with size. Like just because you're big doesn't mean that you are going to be like really strong. Strength is really dependent on the neuromuscular system, and just you don't have to constantly be like trying to bulk and stuff to get stronger. You can lose weight and get stronger. So I was like, okay, well, there's no point in me being this big. Because at one point on,
Yeah, what did you top
yeah,
out
like
at?
I was at 230, and
And you're
now I'm
six
at
two or 6'1"?
6'1".
6'1".
So that's pretty hefty, I would say, for a 6'1". Like 230, 6'1", that's pretty big. I mean, obviously, not all of it was muscle.
Yeah.
Some of it, some of the stuff there was some fluff. And another thing that caught my eye was that fat doesn't contribute to strength gains. It's just kind of
Right.
dead weight that doesn't help you at all because it can't contract or anything. So it's just like
Yeah.
hanging there. I'm like, well, I could just lose it and I'll still, gain strength. Like it's not going to matter. So yeah, I was at 230, and then now I'm at 200 pounds. Pretty much every day that I weigh in, I'm at 200 pounds, and I feel a lot better. I'm just as strong, if not maybe a little bit stronger on some lifts. Now that I'm more advanced, obviously it's harder for me to go up in my lifts and stuff. But my main goal now is just to maintain, recomp, um, just kind of like get as strong as I can at this body weight because I feel good at this body weight, and I've seen the numbers go up steadily. So I'm just sticking here for now because especially when I go out and play like basketball and stuff, I feel better when I'm lighter. When I'm at 200 pounds, when I was running around at 230, I could feel the weight on me, and especially now that I'm just as strong as I was at 230, now that I'm at 200, I feel a lot lighter because it's basically just like I took 30 pounds off and I'm still just as strong. It's
Yeah.
not like I took that weight off and I lost strength. So it kind of feels the same. I'm just as strong as my 230 self at 200 pounds. So I feel even better than before. And then the
One
way,
thing I noticed, did you notice like any difference between like when you were doing the exercises, the weighted exercises in your joints when you were bigger versus now? Like, do you feel more of, um, I guess, like, did you feel like you had more cushion in your joints when you were bigger and doing the weights as opposed to now when you do the weights? Does like being leaner feel like it's putting more pressure on your joints?
no, not really, because my body adapts to the look. Like I'm pretty much training that way, the same way I've been training for a while. So my body's been adapted to it. So even though my body did lose weight, it's not any more strenuous on my joints because my joints are already adapted to these movements and these loads. So they're kind of just like, meh, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't
Yeah, that's
affect them
good.
very much. Um, and then I guess the last thing to touch on is like how I got there. Um, Not super complicated. I literally was eating a certain amount of calories. Say I don't really know the exact number, but say like 3,000, for example, I cut that down a couple hundred calories. So eating around like 2,700, maybe 26. I did that for about 3, 4 months. Well, I'm still doing it now, but I'm at a point to where I'm just maintaining. But I did that for about 3 to 4 months, and over the course of those 3, 4 months, I lost that weight. Or it was a longer period of time, but there was a lot of water weight in the beginning. So it was like 3, 4, maybe 5 months, um, and just by deleting those calories from my diet, my body slowly just shedded it off. It wasn't like, I was um, getting rid of fats, or I was getting rid of proteins, or not proteins, but carbs. I wasn't um, getting rid of any kind of macronutrient. All I did was take some calories away, and actually, I was eating a little bit dirtier during my cut than when I was bigger. I was actually like, my calories were still lower, but I was like eating Fruit Loops for breakfast, which I still kind of do. I have like I go out to eat. I drink alcohol like two, maybe 3 times a week, um, and it's like I can pretty much do whatever I want as long as my calories are underneath my maintenance. If my goal is to lose weight, and throughout my cutting, I literally just kind of enjoyed my diet, but I just didn't overeat. And over time, it still just went away. So, in
To hit on
conclusion,
your point, yeah, to hit on that real quick
yeah,
though, I recently learned that there is a Fruit Loop like cereal that is a protein cereal. I'll have to go back and I'll have to see if I can find it.
mhm,
Remember that guy I suggested to you, Derek Moore, from moreplatesmoredates.com? I
I
think I
think
told
so.
you to check him out a while back, but
Uh-huh.
he just got his first like sponsor, and that's exactly what it was. It's just
Oh,
I think there's like 1 gram per serving, or 1 gram of sugar per serving of this cereal, and it's got like a pretty high protein content for
uh-huh.
it. So if you want something that's like more healthy, that's a good way to go. I'll try and find it
Yeah.
and send it to you, but it looked really, really good. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I
Um,
wanted to mention that before I forgot.
I guess to finish off that point, it made weight loss a lot easier because I was still eating the foods that I wanted to eat. It's just I wasn't
Yeah.
eating as much. Um, and that's what stops a lot of people from losing weight or losing fat, because they're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to eat this and that. It's really hard. I mean, it is hard to not, like, sometimes I want it to be like, oh, I just want a little bit more, but,
Yeah.
you kind of have to cut it off. But it made it a lot easier just eating whatever. I didn't just eat whatever I wanted, but if there was something that I wanted to eat, I would eat it if it fit into my calories for the day. It made it just so much easier, instead of like, when people usually go on diets, it's kind of like salad, chicken, salad, broccoli, vegetables, chicken, like
Yeah.
over and over. Um, but they don't understand that you can have things that you want, you just can't eat it in excess.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the main point, and it's a lot easier to maintain when you're eating foods that you actually like, because your body will adjust. Like at first, when I was losing weight, I was like, oh, I'm still hungry, but now I'm like, I'm not really hungry. Like whatever I eat now, I'm kind of like content, because my body's like, okay, like it's used to what I'm eating.
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh, I need 2 pounds of whatever I'm eating. Now I don't need anywhere close to that. So yeah, I mean, just really simple, straightforward, couple hundred calories deficit. Pretty much eat what I enjoy, and worked out, lost the weight. That's pretty much it.
Have you been eating like a particular schedule, or you just eat when you're hungry, or?
um, my body kind of made its own schedule. Like I mean, I eat 3 times a day,
Yeah.
but that's what my body is comfortable with. Um, and I pretty much just eat like, I eat till I'm content. That's what I feel makes it work. I don't actually like write down my calories and stuff. I just go off of what my body did for the first couple days. Like if I was eating um, a certain amount of food in the portions of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and throughout the next couple days I started gaining weight, I would just make those portions a little smaller, because if when I start gaining weight, my body's telling me that, okay, we don't need all of that food that you just put in your body. So I'm like, all right, I'll just cut it back a little bit. And then once I cut it back, then my body starts to slow down and like stop at a weight. And if the weight starts going down, then I know that I'm at a good portion size for each meal.
Yeah.
So I know what to kind of stick around most of the time. And then once, it might happen again from time to time, like where, for the next 2 weeks, I'm good. And I'm like losing a pound or two each week. And then I kind of eat a little bit more and I don't really notice. My weight might creep a little bit back up. And that's just my body telling me again, like, hey, just, cut it back a little bit. And I cut it back and then I go back down. And that's pretty much it. But yeah, the eating whatever, not whatever, but eating what I like is good. And you can eat whatever you like. People that watch, um, it's not going to kill you. The difference between eating like bad food and healthy food is that you're going to have more vitamins and minerals and fiber in the healthy food, which is good. Um, if you can sustain that, then stick with that. But if you're on a diet and it's hard for you to always eat like that, that's just going to cause you to kind of have like an outbreak of eating a bunch of stuff at once that you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
And on top of that, eating bad food, like say McDonald's, candy, whatever, that just because you eat that, that doesn't mean that right when you eat it, it stores as fat. The only time it stores as fat is when you have too much or too many calories throughout the day. It doesn't matter at all what you have calorie wise, because if you have, say, we'll look at like the extreme end, like say I didn't eat at all today and I was like, I'm going to have a cookie, and I have that cookie, there's no way that my body's going to store that as fat. It has to use it for energy. So, it's not like, oh, it's a cookie. Well, I'm just going to store it then. And my body's not going to use it, even though I'm starving, and I need energy. So it doesn't work that way. The only
Yeah.
difference between bad and good, healthy food is the vitamin, mineral, and fiber content. And that's the main thing. It's not like a bad food and a good food. The bad food makes you fat and the good food makes you skinny. That's not how it works.
Yeah, too much of good food will put on weight too. That's evident with sumo wrestlers. Sumo wrestlers eat a
Yeah.
lot of really good food and they pack on that weight. So
Yeah, you can eat like a whole 2, 3 bundles of bananas every day, but I guarantee you're gonna gain weight,
yeah,
even though they're bananas.
yeah, bananas have a lot of carbs and natural sugars, and people don't think about it. They're like, ooh, I need I need this vitamin, I need that vitamin, I need potassium, whatever, but it's like you can get it from other places. There's not
Yeah,
one food that gives you that one particular thing and that's it. There's a full profile against every food. You got to have a nice mixture in order to be able to gain everything you need to keep your body rolling.
yeah. I used to be like that too. I used to think like, oh, if I eat this cookie, this is immediately going to my stomach or it's going to add fat to me, even if I was in a caloric deficit. And then I was like, I would go to say like some healthy restaurant where it's all organic food and like healthy, right? I would go there and I would just like stuff myself. And I'm like, no matter how much I eat, it's not going to go to fat because it's healthy food. That's how I used to think. And
Yeah.
that's not a good way to think. That was a long time ago. I'm not that dumb now, but yeah.
Well, fitness is definitely a journey, a lifelong journey that you continue to learn things and continue to adapt to what your body, changes into over the years. Because obviously, as you age, your chemicals change, your body changes as a result of that. One thing that I've noticed in my 30s is that as a 30 something year old person, my body is a lot more keen, and the environment that I provide it is very much dependent upon how my body will look, in the way that if I go and I exercise, I feel the benefits of it much quicker, and I feel the benefits of it at looking at myself aesthetically much quicker. Whereas in
Mhm.
my 20s, I was always just kind of like locked into kind of one body type. I had that ectomorph body type that I just couldn't get rid of. I just couldn't gain the weight, pretty much no matter what I did. But as I hit into my 30s, I can tell that my chemicals have changed, because now, I've hit my goal way quicker than I thought, just because I was able to, manipulate my diet. I was able to manipulate my workouts. I was able to, really focus in on the things that were going to be beneficial for me to hit my goal. Because I went from, I think when I started, I was at about 170 to 174 maybe. And then I ended up at 210 within 5 months, which is pretty crazy. Obviously, a lot of that was fat, but I did, gain quite a lot of weight very quickly. And it was just from basically looking at everything and taking what knowledge I had and saying, all right, if I was my own client, what would I tell myself to do? Because I think sometimes, as having a background in training, or just being very comfortable in the gym, I think it really has a kind of gives us a little bit of a jaded mindset, in that we think that we're kind of like above the same principles that we would teach to someone else. Like
Yeah,
if we had a client that wants to gain weight, and we would give them a different program than we give ourselves. And I learned that, I'm not above the information that I know it to be true, and the statistics and the trials and stuff that I've read through. Like, I stopped putting that stuff in my toolbox for myself and only gave it to the people that I was working with. And so that's something that, once I took that out, and I just treated myself like I would treat anybody else. Man, I mean, my results went, through the roof, because I was trying to hit 200 pounds
yeah.
by December. And I hit it before June, and I didn't even start until like February. So, I was just shoveling down food, same as you. I started out, I was just, eating whatever, because I was seeing the weight go on, and I was like, okay, the weight's going on. I'm seeing it, a pound or two a week. And over the period of time, I gained like 30 pounds or more. And
It's kind of addicting when you see the weight go up and you're like, I want to see if I can get to a certain point, and I want to get to that point. You're like, I want to see if I can get to this point and then this point.
and it was, it was crazy, and I was loving that feeling of it going up, like you just said. Yeah, I was addicted to it. But then at the same time, like, then none of my clothes fit anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I can't use my belt anymore because I'm too big for it. My guts hanging over my belt. Most of my shirts, like, they don't fit so well. And if it doesn't fit because of my arms or my shoulders, which is usually what I run into, which is fine. But once my gut starts hanging out to where I'm, smuggling like a pork belly or something like that, then obviously,
Yeah.
that's something that I want to clean up. And so I got to the point to where I hit 210, and I'm like, okay, no more. I gotta clean it up. I gotta start my focus on my cut now, which I haven't done a solid cut since like middle school, when I was in
Uh-huh.
wrestling. So I came at this from a completely different angle, as obviously I did in middle school. I
Wait,
really wanted to kind of utilize what I knew worked really well from a health standpoint. And I had read a lot about the carnivore diet and the keto diet as well. And kind of when I looked into the research, and I found a couple doctors that were huge proponents of it, and I started looking into why, and I started looking into the studies that they have done, and just kind of like the things that they have seen over the years. I really wanted to give it a shot, just to see, if it was truly how they said. And like, does it really make you feel better? And so now I've gone, this is exactly 2 months on the diet today, and all my inflammation is gone. Like even inflammation, I didn't even know was there. It was just day to day, it was always there. And eating this diet got rid of it. So I didn't even realize how unhealthy I felt until I started feeling healthy.
Inflammation and where specifically?
Joints, gastrointestinal. I started having a lot of issues with acid reflux. My joints. I mean, I was kind of dealing with it all over. I had like all this water retention from eating so many carbs, and being able to strip that all away, because obviously we have to have meat, protein, cholesterol. That's the foundation of our entire body. And so effectively eliminating all of the stuff that could potentially be a problem, it allowed me to kind of feel what you should feel like when your body's running purely off of ketones instead of glucose. And your body does have a natural way of changing the the ketones. So it's gluconeogenesis. So your body breaks down fat, turns it into sugar. Didn't even know it could do that until I started reading up on this diet. And I was able to drop, so I'm at like about 185 right now, and I was at 210 at the beginning of June. So I mean, already in 2 months, that's what, 25 pounds.
Yeah.
So I mean, that in itself, I think is good. And like, I feel good. My energy is always the same. I can tell that I don't have like cravings for carbohydrates, and especially not for like any sweets or anything like that. Like occasionally I'll have like a Halo Top or something, but that's it. I just
Yeah.
recently introduced milk back into my diet, but other than that, it's like I wake up and I have the same breakfast every day: 6 eggs, 4 pieces of bacon. That gives me roughly about 700 calories, 800 calories. And that's a lot of fat and a lot of cholesterol, a lot of vitamins and minerals in the egg. Obviously, eggs are basically superfoods in themselves. And then I eat a pound of meat at night. The simplest diet you could possibly have. And I noticed that my body recovers significantly faster than it did before when I was eating carbs and doing my bulking diet. Like now I'll get sore, and within like maybe 2 days, I feel good. And I'm doing the progressive overload. I'm hitting more weight, or if I'm topped out on something, then I'll just add another set, and I'll just keep adding more volume. I'm doing well, I started by doing like one muscle group that I really wanted to focus on. And I did like a tetrad, like a 4-day split, to where I would do that same muscle every day, but in a different exercise. So I'm hitting it from a different direction.
Yeah.
And so one day I would do like a heavy weight, then the next day I would do a lighter weight, then the next day I would do like just functional movements, and then the next day I would do like another heavy day, and then I would just kind of like cycle it around, and then I would do that for about 6 weeks, and then I would switch to muscle group. So that way I had a lot of focus on that one particular thing that I wanted to grow, and it worked really well. I was able to get, I think my chest was about a 38 when I started. Now I'm at like a 44. My arms were about like a 12. No, I think it was like about 13. And now my arms are like a 17. And my legs are definitely a lot bigger than they used to. I don't know why I didn't measure them in the beginning, but even now, like my waist is down to 34, and I was up to around like a 38. So, I mean, like everything's just kind of grown, and now I'm just like shedding the fat off.
Uh,
And yeah, I mean, I was never huge into a lot of the different diets and whatnot, but there was just something that appealed to me about the carnivore diet, and just basically saying, you know what, do we actually need all this other stuff? And if you eat snout to tail like you're supposed to, which I kind of don't, but I do mix up my meats. I noticed that I genuinely just feel better all the time. And like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like ready to go. I don't need coffee. I don't need I know I'm doing intermittent fasting at the same time. So I, wake up and, within a couple hours, I'll have a meal and then I'll eat that pound of meat sometime at night whenever I get hungry. Some days I just don't even get hungry. I just eat that one meal and I'm good. And I'm like, okay, well, that's just, extra calories that I'm burning. So I'm hitting roughly in between like 1,600 to 2,000 calories in a day. And when I eat, I stuff myself. Like I'm about to throw up. I eat so much. And then I'm good. I mean, all I drink is water and I have some casein protein if I do feel like I'm needing a little something extra while I'm sleeping. Um, but outside of that, I mean, it's nothing but just pure clean calories, performing well in the gym. Like I said, I'm cutting fat. I've cut basically all the water weight off my body. I had a little brief period where my joints weren't feeling so good, gave myself like 3 days off and I increased my calories a little bit. And after that, I mean, since then, that was probably about 3 weeks ago. And since then, nothing. I mean, I feel like a tank. I feel better than I did in my 20s. That's crazy.
Well, that's good that the diet worked for you. Um,
And I'll definitely say is not a diet for everyone,
yeah,
but I think there's a lot of people that I think it would work well with. People that have a high insulin response, I think would do really, really well on either a keto or a carnivore friendly style diet because you're pretty much nuking your insulin at that point. Your bile production is going to have to pick up in your pancreas. So it does take a little while to kind of like acclimate the body to deal with the extra fat and extra protein that you're going to be running through your body. But it adjusts the acidity level for the meat, and your gut bacteria also changes to help break down the protein. So when I was bulking, I'd go take a dump 3 times a day, and they were huge, massive dumps. Now I'm in there once for the tiniest little rabbit turd, and that's it, which just means that my body is using everything pretty much that I give it.
yeah. So as you can see, there's many different approaches that you can take to lose or gain weight. Um,
Oh yeah.
so I think
I mean, I definitely
it,
think that calories in, calories out does work as long as you're doing some sort of strength training program with it.
so let's see, from my standpoint, a different diet such as like keto, carnivore, um, whatever the diet is, people that need to do those diets are the people that just want to do those diets, kind of like like you felt like you just, you wanted to try it out. It's exciting and it's
Yeah.
different. And it kind of like, my dad did it too. My dad did keto for a while and he was also at like I think he was at like 240. And then he got all the way down to like 190. And he
Wow.
did that with keto. And it's just whatever people can stick with, like whatever diet it is, that's the diet that you should do. So like for you, maybe you couldn't have stuck with a balanced diet like I did. Balanced dieting sometimes is hard for people because they have access to everything.
Yeah, it's the
And
portion control that gets in the way of most people.
yeah, like for me, I have control and I can be like, all right, I'm going to stop. For other people, they can be like, oh, I'll just keep going. Like they have access to like cookies, like cereal. There's all this stuff, but like for some
Why
people,
why
like
why eat a spoonful when I can eat a pint?
yeah, but like for other people, like such as you, it probably made it a little bit easier because you probably didn't when you went to the grocery store, you probably didn't buy anything else but like meat and
Yeah, meat and
with
eggs.
so like when you're around when you're in your house, you don't just like walk by the kitchen and you're like, oh, I want that like box of cereal or I want. So
Yeah.
it takes away that stuff. So that goes back to my main point that, do a diet that you can stick with, but there's always a catch to it. Obviously not having a ton of fat on you is much healthier than having fat, like pretty much regardless of the way that you get down, whatever diet you choose. I would say that a balanced diet, health wise, would be best just because it includes all of the macronutrients, your vitamins, minerals, and fiber that you get from a lot of the carbohydrate family, starches, and all that good stuff. And what else was I going to say? The carbohydrates. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know why I lost my train of thought.
I think that having the balanced diet for the average person, I think is better. I think because kind of one of the biggest things that I've got from doing this diet is the anti-inflammatory, having my omega-3s and 6s in better balance. And I don't know if that's necessarily just because of how I'm eating or if it's from the things that I'm eliminating, because I did both. I fixed what I'm eating and I eliminated things that, depending on what doctor you ask, you need or you don't need.
So
I think it's a lot more simplistic to limit yourself to things that you need wholly to maintain like your body's natural function, and then add things on top of that that your body's okay with. So like I think some of the things that I've eliminated, my body was allergic to or didn't like in one way or another. Like I'm lactose intolerant, but I could also be intolerant of some other foods that are out there that I eliminated and from getting. So that's kind of why I like this diet, because of how much better it made me feel both in and out of the gym, and not
yeah.
just from a point of view of like, oh, I'm eating less calories, because I do plan to stick on this kind of like indefinitely. But
Yeah.
when I go to try and gain more weight, I'm probably going to end up doing like Saturday and Sunday, I'll add carbs back in. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to go eat a bunch of sugar, but some simple things that I would like to have is like bread would be great. Maybe a little bit of rice, but just to add in that little bit of like extra energy. But I still want to have like that fat loss that I get during the week because I'm eating and surviving off of fat and ketones.
Yeah. So that's a pure example of, for you, like your specific situation, the diet that you did worked for you because of like the inflammation and some of the foods may have irritated you. I would say for the inflammation that you experienced like inside, you know, in your organs, that is most likely from foods that your body just doesn't like, or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah.
as far as joints go, I have a strong feeling that when you started working out again consistently, that probably also improved your joints, your tendons, and all that, because when you lift weights, all that adapts and gets stronger and makes it feel
But
better.
yeah.
So, do I think that it's from the like fats and stuff in the diet that improve the joints, the joint health, and all that stuff? I don't think so. I think the elimination of a lot of different foods from the diet that you were doing before did clear up probably some inflammation. Um, but joint wise, I would say from working out alone, that would probably have just improved it from there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, my joint strength is definitely better. One thing that I haven't been eating a lot of that I should is bone marrow, because I know that that's very heavy in collagen. Collagen is obviously one of the main things that builds your joints. But through the meats that I'm eating, especially with the amount of red meat, because one thing I had to figure out very quickly was like, hey, I can have like 8 ounces of chicken and I get like a lot of chicken, but it's only like 300 calories. or I could eat like 8 ounces of red meat, like hamburger meat, and that's like 1,000 calories. And I'm getting all these extra like micronutrients out of it, a lot of extra like minerals and vitamins that you're not going to get in the chicken. So like that was kind of like my first lesson was like, hey, do I just want to fill myself up, or am I really trying to hit like specific goals? So I had to kind of
Yeah.
stop eating chicken, because what I realized was that I would eat the chicken and then I wouldn't be hungry for a long time. And I wasn't necessarily good, because I was only hitting like 1,000 calories for the day, which is, in my opinion, that's too much of a deficit. You only want to be in a deficit by like, 3, 4, 500 tops.
Yeah.
And I was at like 1,000 calorie deficit. So I had to throw in the red meat. And I mean, with the different styles of cut that I've gotten, and I've got like a few spices and herb blends and stuff like that that I'll use. I mean, I've gotten to the point to where my body just wants that savory and doesn't want the sweet anymore. So, I've got some spices to kind of accent that, and everything's covered in salts, because you have to have a lot of salt with this diet, which has been kind of weird, because you hear a lot of people say, oh, no, 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 you don't want to have too much salt.
Yeah.
Whereas the carnivore doctors are like, oh my God, get more salt. How do you expect your muscles to fire if you don't have salt? Where are you going to get that electricity to pass through if you don't have those electrolytes? And so
Yeah.
that's been
People,
kind of another thing that I didn't think about too much until after this journey has started.
yeah, people dramatize salt intake. It's really not that bad.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I even chuck some salt in my water now. I chuck salt in my, well, I don't have, well, I have a pre-workout, but I have my like BCAAs that I drink during my workout, because I like the mixture, and I like it's got a little bit of creatine in there. And so I'll take like, a couple grams of salt and throw it in there and shake it up.
yeah.
And I definitely notice like my muscles fire the whole time. Whereas before, toward the end of my workout, like it just seems like my muscles just kind of like started to shut down on me. Like my CNS was just failing on me. But now I don't have that. So, another thing that was kind of limiting my progress in the gym that I've taken care of.
But that could also be because as you're working out, you are getting more work capacity as the training sessions go along throughout your program. The
Well,
salt could help, but I'm saying your body's
I went
adapting and
from
getting.
like a constant failure to like never failing. And this, it's not something that like I just noticed this time around. It's something that I've kind of always noticed, even when I was at my strongest, back in like my early 20s, when I was lifting a lot of weight. Even then, I would just get to a point to where I would get, CNS failure, where my body would just not, like if I was benching, then I'd have to have somebody there ready to grab it, because it would just release, it would just relax, and there was nothing I could do about it.
So now you're not getting to those points to where you're failing, right?
So now I'm still doing the progressive overload. So there's still that extra stress on the body,
But
but
you're
because I've
you're not
added,
like you're not like failing though, like how you were. Like, do you need like a spotter now, or you're not failing your sets anymore,
if I
right?
want to hit it the same way that I was before, I would still need a spotter. Yeah. The way
So
that I'm
right
working
now,
now is primarily I'm doing it with like a lot of dumbbell stuff, because I don't have that spotter, but dumbbells hit technically better than a straight bar. So I'm still hitting it in the same way for most exercises, but I'm just not hitting that. Like my muscles begin to fail in the way that you want. You want to feel that burn. You want to feel that lactic acid. You want to feel that, you get shaky and then you just can't quite finish it. And so you have to release it. But instead, what I was dealing with before was literally like my muscle was just contracted and then it just released. It's like I don't have any more electricity to go through. And even
so
after that, like I would crave like salty foods and stuff. And now I know why. I mean, after I've been supplementing a lot more sodium in my diet, that has completely gone away. And
so do you
now,
think you're training with a
I,
lower RPE like level now than compared to before?
um, so now I'm hitting more for volume, but I've been through a lot of volume style workouts in the past. So
I
now I'm
mean,
focused on getting like, I do roughly around like 100 reps, 100 to 200 reps per major muscle
so like
for the rep.
before, do you what do you think your training was at before RPE on the RPE scale compared to now?
So, I mean, if you want to go back to when I was doing my strongest stuff, I mean, I was always on the low end of the rep range and I would do as much weight as I could possibly do. I was trying to get as close to my 1 rep max as I possibly could. And I wanted
So
to
like
bust out like,
per set, you're doing like if you did a set of five back then, that set of five, would
if
you
I did
consider?
5, then I was moving the weight up. I was trying to shoot for around like 3 reps was what I was at when I was going for strength. And
Well,
that's when I did all. Mm.
regardless of the rep range, I'm saying like before, like when you were working out, like if you did a set of three, four, five, whatever it is, the effort level, like on the RPE scale, back then, do you think per set would that be like an RPE 10 back then compared to now? Maybe you're doing it at like an RPE 8 or
It's a good question. I mean, I always just measure by volume because when I was doing it back then, my whole goal was just to be stronger. And so I was just always focused on putting the most amount of weight on there as possible. Because I would say the amount of work done now versus then is probably about the same, just because I'm doing more reps now.
mhm.
But the
So
ultimate like number is going to be roughly about the same. Back then I'm doing, the straight bar bench press and I'm hitting, like 245, 275 and for reps and I'd be there for like 5 sets or whatever. And now I'm doing more like I'm just trying to overwhelm and overload. So my rest time is a lot different now than it was then. Because back then I would do like, a 2 to 3 minute rest in between each set. Now I'm doing like 30 seconds to a minute.
right.
So I'm trying to, flood it as much as possible. So
So
to me, it's kind of like apples and oranges. But as
I
far as like, if you're just looking at overall how much work is done, I mean, it's relatively the same.
so
Does that make
I
sense?
think yeah. So I think what happened back then, you're using heavier weight, right? So we'll say the RP back then is higher than what you're using now. I mean, what you're doing now is challenging. It's just different training, but the weight that you're using can't be as heavy as it was before because before you were using longer rest times and you're going for more of a strength goal. Now you're kind of just doing like a kind of like hit in a way where you're, say you do dumbbell bench and then 30 seconds of rest, and then you go back into whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So that requires you to use lighter weight. And what happens on this, the way you used to train, where it's really strength training, if you're, going balls to the wall all the time, like RP 9, 10, that can play a big role or big effect in your CNS, your central nervous system. And then that can overall result in failure in future workouts or future exercises
Yeah,
because
your
your
body
CNS,
acclimates to the environment that you provide for it, and so it changes it in the future.
yeah.
But
So
like even when we were working together at GNC, like when I was going to LA Fitness then, like I would still have that same issue where like I would get to a point to where my muscle just gives in and it just relaxes. It's something that, like I said, I had always dealt with
Right.
regardless
But
of what was going on. Because I went through multiple phases where I was like working out hard, and then I would either get comfortable or I get to a point where I'm not seeing the results I want, and then I drop off and then I pick back up. And it was just kind of consistently like that. And even this, past like several months at the beginning of the year when I was gaining weight, I was still running into that same issue. And it was only when I changed to this diet and started increasing my salt. Because even at the beginning of the diet, I wasn't getting enough salt and I was still having the same issue. And then I watched a couple videos about other people that had been doing the diet. And I'm like, wow, they are using a way more salt than I am. So then I increased my salt intake. And now I never have a problem. Like my muscles never relax. They contract until I just basically can't move. I
yeah,
mean, it's the only thing scientifically that I can think that would have changed. It's just like my muscles just fire better, they fire longer, they fire stronger.
yeah. So I'm not saying that it's not like that doesn't contribute. I'm basically trying to find the throughout with the training uh,
Yeah, from
variable.
a training regimen,
So
yeah, I'm definitely improving over time. My muscles are obviously getting bigger, but I'm also getting stronger because I'm forcing it to do more. But then I also do have the muscle memory of, my prior lifts that I've done in the past, and especially when I did my strength work. Obviously, what I'm lifting now is, still far and away from what I was able to do when I was doing my like pure strength days.
yeah,
Um, then I was like benching like 315 and I was squatting like 405 or something like that. And I don't even remember what my deadlift was. It was three something. But like, and I remember one time specifically, I was doing my squats, and I was so thankful that I had a spotter there, because I went down and I did like 3 or 4 clean ones, and I went down for the next one, and about halfway up, same thing. My legs just relaxed, and there was nothing I could do about it. And man, that weight comes down quick. But luckily I had my buddy there that kind of like, grabbed it and didn't land on me. So that was nice.
yeah. So what I'm getting at is like the training that you used to do, like how we were talking about, is more heavy, higher RPE, very CNS fatiguing.
Yeah.
The failure could have been an accumulation of that type of training, and then you would experience that type of failure consistently throughout your training program when you used to be training like that, right? And then now the way that you're training is different than what you were doing before,
Oh yeah.
as in terms of it used to be strength training, longer rest times, heavier weight, very dependent on central nervous system. Now you're doing it. It's more of like kind of work capacity. You're training your muscular system like a lot in kind of an endurance way, like strength endurance.
Yeah.
Um, but so that's two things. So it's less fatiguing on the CNS, and number two is you're building more work capacity because you're shortening your rest time, and you're probably doing more reps. So your body is adapting to this new way of training, work capacity, and not having as much fatigue. So you can continuously do that over a long period of time because you're not getting the
Yeah.
CNS fatigue and you're building work capacity day in and day out. Then you go into the gym. So that I think is the main contributor to why your training sessions feel better and you're not feeling that failure type of feeling in your training anymore, because it's not as like, I'm training heavy all the time and I can't do it and I just give out, sometimes in my workouts, compared to now, because you've built yourself up to this work capacity and you're
Yeah.
not straining your CNS. So I think that's the main contributor. I'm not saying that your diet isn't contributing. I'm thinking like mainly the training would be the main contributor, and then the diet would kind of support that. I mean, I'm not really an expert on the carnivore diet, but training wise, I would think that would be the main thing, and then maybe the diet helped with that, with like the sodium intake and stuff. But
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, my style of exercise is changed pretty drastically every time I come back to it. I try something a little different, just to kind of see, what is out there, what people are really getting into, and kind of seeing what sort of health benefits come out of it. Most of what I've done previously has always been volume, or it's always been strength. Um, I learned through trial and error basically that hitting a muscle once a week works for a bodybuilder, because they're taking a bunch of steroids usually, and so
yeah,
they get that anabolic chain of protein synthesis going at a much better rate than I can.
yeah,
But
the steroids basically just, they make you recover faster. So
yeah,
honestly, I would think like if I were to take steroids, I would probably do whole body every single day, because instead of it being like, say, I don't know, 48 hours for normal people to recover between sessions, for people on steroids, that's like double. It's like super fast to recover. It's like, right after you work out, you're like, all right, I need like 1 hour, and I can probably just go back in and do it again. So that's like the advantage that they have, is because they can just recover super quick, and
yeah.
they're very sensitive to training. So it's like, why not just hit the whole body like every single day, and then your body will just like blow up, instead
Well,
of
it's
waiting like on Monday you do chest and then next Monday do chest again. It's like, you on steroids you can do chest every single day, and you'll be well off.
Well, it's like kind of the traditional split that Arnold did during his time as a bodybuilder versus like Dorian Yates. So, Arnold's way of working out is basically what they consider the golden age, right? But then you look at Dorian Yates, who was like, I'm not going to be in the gym for 5 hours. I'm going to be here for an hour and a half. And he did 3 sets for his major muscles. So he did 2 warm-up sets and 1 working set. And he said that he would push it until it could not go anywhere. And then he would continue to push and just do negatives, basically. So he would tax it until there was nothing left. And then he would give it an extra 2, which I
Yeah,
thought just sounds crazy. But I mean, again, that dude has probably some of the best genetics in bodybuilding ever. And I think
yeah,
that workout also symbolizes the, professional nature that he has in just lifting in general. I mean, you look at bodybuilders that, more recently, and they don't look the same as, Dorian Yates did.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah. It's
it
highly
kind of
dependent
sucks.
on
I don't like the new
genetics,
physiques. Yeah.
and and the steroids and all that stuff. But yeah, the way that he trained, you don't. There's a build up to it. I don't know if he knew that you don't have to go in and train and do like the most all the time. It's like, you can build up. Like when you first start training, obviously you're not going to be doing like what Dorian Yates did. You're when you first start training, your body will, a couple sets of squats will already recruit maximum motor units in your muscles that are engaged in that movement. Just, yeah, like after a couple sets. So you don't, like, once the motor units are recruited, you don't need to do anymore. Any more work is just going to put you, you're just going to be sore, and just basically it's probably going to make you miss your next workout because you're not going to be able to move. So it's
Yeah.
like you need to find your minimal, most effective amount of stress, and then just work with that. And once you find that, that's, usually like everyone's different when they first start, but you work out, and whatever, say you do 3 sets of 5 or whatever for squat, bench, and deadlift the first day, then the next time you um, do that workout, then maybe you can do that workout again, or you can up it by a set or whatever. It doesn't have to be any kind of extreme. It's just like, progressively loading, add volume to it, and then you just go from there. You pretty much just keep adapting and keep adapting. It doesn't have to be any crazy bodybuilder steroid workout or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think what
What
you
was it?
said is very important. The point is never to like max out on everything. The purpose is to go in and do the minimum amount of work in order to get growth, to make it
Yeah,
stronger, and to overall be healthier. Because this is, this isn't something that's just a, hey, let's do this for a season, or hey, let's just do this for a year.
it's the long
We're
game.
both trying to like set people up for the rest of their lives, and just to
Yeah,
continuously give yourself the ability to be better than you were yesterday and seek to be better tomorrow than you are today. And
yeah,
I think
it's about the
that's something
long.
that you don't hear a lot of the influencers talking about. You don't hear a lot of people in the fitness industry even talk about that.
Yeah, people want to get from point A to point B like really quick, but it's all about the long game. It's not,
Yep.
I want a 500-pound deadlift or whatever. I'm not gonna force myself to do that. That'll probably just get me injured because I'm gonna be forcing my body to use weights that I can't handle.
Yep.
I'll get it eventually. Like I'm not gonna force it. Like I'm gonna let my body climb up there. And progress in the gym is never linear. People think that it's just linear. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go up 5 pounds all the time, or like we always have ups and downs. Like progress goes like this. It kind of goes like in waves up.
Yep.
So even today, I kind of went a little lighter than usual just because I was feeling a little tired. So I'm not like every workout up, 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 up. Today I kind of went down a little bit, but it's okay. I'm ultimately going up. So it's like it's more
Yeah.
about the ride to the next point. It's not like, oh man, like I'm not gonna get all down on myself. Like, but on Monday I squatted 355 for five, and today I only did 335 for five. Like, oh, like I'm not gonna change up everything or whatever. I'm not gonna panic. It's just it could have been an off day. Like, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, your hydration levels could have been off a little bit. You eat a little bit differently every day. Maybe you just didn't have the right song on. I mean, a degree of like 5 to 10% in your strength every day can change to go up or down or whatever. And that, they can't be the focus that you put yourself in that mindset of like day to day to day to day. You got to think about it over the long term and say, I have my goal, I have some short-term goals that I can achieve in the meantime, but my ultimate goal is health and wellness. I want to feel good, I want my body to be healthy, I want to avoid injuries, I want to kind of fight against aging almost, so
Yeah,
it's important that people are encouraged to really continue down the path. And I think that the days that you wake up that you really don't want to go, the days that you go that you don't feel very strong, those are the days that you have to be there. The days you want to
hmm
be there, I mean, you're gonna go in there, you're gonna lift, and you're gonna do what you want to do, and you're gonna leave there happy because you got what you wanted to. And
yeah.
anybody can do that, but those days that you just can't get yourself motivated, you really don't want to go. I mean, that is when you're going to make your gains. That's when you're going to be a better version of you.
Yeah, there's also there's outside stresses too. Like if you're a
Oh
student
yeah.
or you work a lot or whatever, that affects training as well. But you got to train, like regardless. You can't just because you had a long day at work. You gotta train. It doesn't mean that you have to like go like super crazy. You can adjust. That's why RPEs are great because you can adjust on how you feel that day and be like, I had a long day. I'm not really feeling it. So this is the weight that I'm doing, compared to like a percentage based workout where it's like, hey, you got to hit this weight. I don't care how long your day was, you're hitting this weight, and then that's how injuries happen because your body's like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm not ready for this. So
You always go in there with the mindset that I'm going to feel better after this. And so
yeah,
sometimes that means spending 20 minutes on the treadmill. Sometimes that means going in and lifting weight that's maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone because you're feeling strong that day. I mean, there's all kinds of positive ways that you can push yourself to where you get something good out of it without, being dangerous and risky and,
Mhm.
trying basically injury hunting. We're
Yeah,
not all out here to
it's
do power lifts and bodybuilding and stuff like that. The average Joe is going to be good, just, making sure that they're making a little bit of progress here and there and just, eat a little
yeah.
better.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone, even if powerlifting or whatever it is your goal, even if that is your goal, you still need to kind of train in that manner
Oh
because,
yeah.
again, like forcing yourself to do things, it's if you get hurt, then you're just going to get a big setback, and then you're pretty much fucked. So
Yeah.
you
And as
you
an
still have to
athlete,
train.
getting injured is like, that just changes everything because then you're in a position to where you can't get stronger until you get better. And getting better can take, time depending on what it is. I mean, you tear off a bicep and you're gonna be in trouble for a while.
Yeah, and before like a year and a half or so ago, I was into that to the starting strength stuff. And so for people that don't know, starting strength is just really simple where you're like 3 sets of 5, squat, bench, deadlift, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you go up at least 5 pounds every single session. Um, it's just a really simple linear progression. And I was like, I got progress off of that, but the way that I train now is totally different than how that is. And I actually don't condone to train like that. It's not
Yeah.
actually a great way to train um, because it's just very injury risk. Like the risk of the injury is higher because you just keep going in and you're forcing your body to add weight to the bar. Um, and you're not necessarily getting stronger every time. You're just kind of increasing intensity and then
Yeah.
compensating. And then your body's not going to be ready for it because you just haven't, yeah. Because most people that do it are novices and, they're not used to just like loading up super quick like that. So a lot of people actually get hurt in that type of program
Yeah.
because it's very intensity based, and you have to go up. You have to go up. It's not like like because the way that Ripito classifies it, it's like if I was to go in there and I was doing the linear progression, and I was like, today I'm supposed to do 300 pounds, but I'm not really feeling up to it. I'm just going to do 285. He'll be like, oh, well, you're just a pussy. Everyone has a hard day.
Yeah.
But, it's not going to work out because you're just not ready for it. So um, it's just not a good way to make progress. Like maybe in the very beginning, your body will adapt to those weights. But, in the long run, when intensity keeps creeping up and then especially the way that Repito suggests to eat with that low of activity level, you're going to gain a lot of fat. You're not going to get that strong. Your central nervous system will adjust to the weights that you put on at first, but then as
Yeah.
intensity keeps creeping up, then you're just pretty much going to, if you're following his rules and you keep forcing weight to go on the bar, then you're probably going to get hurt one way or another. So
Yeah. I agree.
listen to your body. Don't force the weight on the bar, and don't eat like a fucking cow. I don't know.
All right. Well, that's a good point to end off on. Listen to your body. You have to give it the food that it needs, and you got to make sure that you're lifting in a way that's conducive with long-term goals.
Oh, did you want to touch on the deadlift, the technique, the rounded back thing, or the technique in general, or no?
We'll have to do that next time. I have to be in
Okay.
Torrance in 45 minutes.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think this one was pretty good. I like our discussion.
Yeah.
I think a lot of I guess like body or mentality, positivity, like mental positivity came out of this, just because
Yeah.
we touched on a lot of things that I don't think most people ever really talked about. I mean, I really like that about having the minimum amount of work done to get you progress and just kind of continue that motion. because
Yeah.
you know everybody's like go hard, go hard, go hard, go hard. Well, you don't need to go that hard. You just need to tax your body enough to where you can get those results, because those
Yeah.
results is
I
really
mean,
what's going to keep you going.
yeah, you
So,
got to challenge yourself, but
yep,
don't go RP 10 all the time, you
yeah.
know.
You got to
I
have those
mean,
6 days and 4 days where you can just kind of go in and do something to feel good about yourself. And then that way, when you get to that day that you feel good, you can go in there and hit those nines and tens.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, yeah, like you're listening to your body, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It kind of just works out, you know. You do the work that you have to do, and then maybe that one day that you feel good, you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll try this weight that I haven't tried before, but I feel good today, so maybe I'll hit this weight for whatever reps it is,
Yeah.
and that's how it
Exactly.
works. It's not like I have to hit this weight today. It shouldn't work like that.
As
But
my
that's
old
just how.
mentor used to say, it's not exactly rocket science, but then again, it is kind of rocket science. It's like people learn a certain amount and then they think they know everything until they mess up and then they realize, oh, there's more to learn.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, that was a good
all right, man.
discussion.
So